We're live. Welcome to episode 7. I'm David Blair with ERA. He's Trevin Perez. How's it going, Trevin?
Hey, buddy. It's fantastic. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. It was a good week. End of the month. Had some properties closed that have been working on the last 30 days. So all in all, a good month, good week.
That's excellent. I'm sure you're sad about a couple of your clients that we talked about over multiple weeks is closed and gone. How are you going to replace that void now?
I think I will feel a little bit lonely without those certain phone calls. I did have a certain individual that attached himself to me. Great guy, just didn't do a lot with regard to um, technology, texting, emailing, things like that. Made several trips to the property to get the old wet signature. And then when we would talk about things, we had to have that conversation daily. So I'm going to go back and look at my phone record. And I think probably over the last 60 days, I've accounted for maybe 350 conversations
No
easily.
way. No,
Yeah.
you're kidding.
No, easily,
You,
easily 350, average of about eight to 10 per day. But what I loved about it is
wow.
that this was classic Phil. What I loved about it was I would say, Phil, I've got all that information. Here's what we need to do next. So I've really got to go. I'm stepping into appointment. Okay, well, one more thing. It was always one more thing. Always one more thing with Phil. So I'm really happy for him and his wife. They moved from kind of a busy subdivision that they lived into, moved into a new construction home that was built on about 2 acres. I think they're going to be happy with the area. They love the home. We're going to talk a little bit about new construction a little bit later today, and I'll give you some thoughts that I have in regards to what the difference is between the different companies that do new construction. So ours was a little bit different. It wasn't what they call a track builder, but
Mhm.
we'll get into that a little bit later. So
Awesome.
what's uh, what's on your agenda for today? What shall we talk about?
Oh gosh, well, we have to bring back the popular and high demand Kiss, Mary, Kill. We're gonna save that to the end, guys. I know you're like bouncing at the seams to see what we're gonna talk about, but that's gonna be at the end. You have to stick around and keep watching this YouTube video. So the algorithms work in our favor. So remember to hit the like button and subscribe. Okay. Don't just email us, but also subscribe and hit the like button. And then we're going to look at a couple other topics. We're going to look at the Florida housing market, just some stats and graphs on that, and along with just some market trend data. Just to bore those who may not be aware of what's going on in the news, and it adds another flavor to our topics around real estate because real estate is so closely woven around the market.
Agreed. Agreed. So we're gonna pull up some graphs, or what have you got for us? We're gonna
Oh,
look at
you want
the
to start right there? Yeah, let's do
Yeah.
it.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's see what you got.
Let's
I'm interested. I'm
let's do
intrigued
it.
to see what's going on. Trying to adjust my color here. I feel like I'm not. There we go. Here we go. Now I've got
Oh, there you go.
that nice tan. Felt like I was a little pale earlier. Looked a little peaked.
Got that serious that money making blue blazer on today.
This is the,
Must have
this is
been a
the close.
closing.
This is the closing jacket. Tiger Woods has his red. I've got my closing jacket. When I come in, I mean business. Give me my check.
Excellent.
I did my job.
Oh snap! That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, so guys, here we got here just a quick snapshot of the Florida housing market overview, and this recaps all of July 2024. Home sale prices in Florida were up, 1.2%, compared to last year, selling at a median price of about $409,300. That's good news. And of course, for the naysayers that the market is going to crash, sorry, it's not. We have a very healthy real estate market here in Florida. And looks like in July, we sold up to 32,112 homes as compared to July of last year. What do you think about that, or what do you make of that, David? Since it does feel like buyers are sitting on the sidelines.
Well, I'm speaking from my experience in my market, and this past month I had an uptick in properties across the board that were being shown. So properties that had a little bit of a lull during that holiday back to school time period that we talked about. I think you do have some, you've got obviously those fluctuations in the market based on what's going on at any given time in our area, and I know in your area as well. Within the last few weeks, kids went back to school, so there's an adjustment period. I think that I've talked to a lot of sellers about and say, you can expect, a couple of things. You can expect a little bit of a slowdown whenever families are going back, especially if you're in areas that like we're here in St. Johns County, cover all of Northeast Florida, but for the most part. Um, it's a school driven market to where you've got a lot of buyers that are looking uh, to buy in those areas in line with the school year. So when that school time is starting, you've got a little bit of a lull in the market there for a couple of weeks. Holiday things kind of factor into that. I think you had a lot of people that were traveling, kind of try to go ahead and get that last minute vacation in. You yourself were sunning on the beach, so taking up some sun in Mexico, so you can relate. So yeah, I definitely think that um, it's picked back up quite a bit. I've seen within the last 2 weeks, again across the board, listings that were not being shown that have gone up, quite a bit with activity and offers. We're seeing offers. Interesting about some of the offers that we're seeing in my market. Um, I think in line with the changes that we've exhausted that occurred with NAR. I think, and we'll touch base on that a little bit later. Um, I'm still seeing the same type offers that come through. We're still seeing buyers that are asking for some closing cost incentives to be paid. Rates are going down, but they're not down to where buyers are not asking for rate buy downs and things like that. So that's what I'm seeing. But all positive signs, I think, going into the last quarter of the year. What about you in your
No,
market?
that's awesome. And you said something that triggered a point for me. I have
He's
a
triggered. He's triggered.
I have a client who is pre-listing status. We decided to rent the property, and we had a lot of activity. But of course, around school time, everything went completely quiet. And now, this week, we are up in amount of showings in the last this whole week. I mean, we have scheduled, including Saturday, about 10 showings, whereas prior to school, we had a good flow of showings, and then it just went, for a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, nothing. So definitely people are back focused on, their housing needs. I also wanted to comment, or at least get your thoughts on the fact that the median days on market, you see that 59 days, that's up
Mhm.
18% year over year. Obviously, toward the end of COVID, people had that fear of missing out syndrome. That was the other syndrome besides COVID. And people were buying, and we were having bidding wars left and right. And so homes couldn't sit on the market long. We would list for just a week, maybe.
Yeah.
But how's your local market with, this is showing 59 days. I'm showing, in my East Orlando zip code, um, I'm showing about 30 days on market. But in some other areas like Kissimmee that I have clients in, we're showing numbers as high as 100 days, depending on the location. So what are you
Yeah.
seeing?
So listings, listing agreements, I've been typically doing those around 90 days. The lowest I think I've done any within the last year or so is probably 60. But I've actually had to extend some listings out recently because of that days on market. So yeah, that seems to be in line with what I'm seeing here. I think if the property shows well, it's priced well, um, then you're probably looking at 60 to 90 days, I think, currently in my market here. Um, I don't know that I've had anything recently that's gone within a 30-day time period. Maybe some good activity, but not not that quick sale that we saw last year, or that we saw going back into even the last 2 years. So not any that's not any great length of time. I mean, I don't think it's any need to to panic. You've got to filter through the inventory that's out there, and it takes time. So if you're working with a realtor right now and you're wondering, okay, my house has been on the market for 30 days, my house has been on the market for 45 days, is this too long for the current market? Have your agent take a look at the absorption rate of what your area is, so that you can determine, okay, how long is it going to take? The absorption rate is what tells you how long it's going to take for the existing inventory to sell out. And that's usually a really good gauge of saying, okay, this is about how long it's going to take. Sometimes you look at listings, you say, okay, well, this property was on the market for 30 days, this property was on the market for 45. I think right now in the current market that we're in, the absorption rate is going to be key in looking at that and saying, okay, well, this is how much inventory is there, because we've got a little bit more inventory than we've had in the past. And that'll be able to give you a good idea of how long it's probably going to take to sell the property. And it doesn't mean that people don't like the property necessarily. Go by your feedback, see what you're getting as far as what are they saying about the pricing, what are they saying about the condition. All of those things kind of factored in, and then just sit tight, don't panic. If it's been priced correctly and you've got a good product and it's in good condition, my broker always his saying is, it'll sell, it'll sell. You just got to put some effort behind it, and then just trying to wait for the right buyer to come in, and all will be right with the world.
Absolutely. And I think it goes back to the point of, what tools you have in your toolbox, right? As an agent to support your sellers. Like you and I were at the expo, right, a few weeks ago, and we learned about some differences that your market offers that my market doesn't. And I had a meeting today, which I'm excited. I'll share later with you. I haven't even talked to you about it. We've been so busy, and you're busy counting those checks. But I'm excited, so excited about this
Yeah,
second half of the year with all the marketing I'm going to have available to help out my clients. So it's
yeah. So,
exciting.
and
So
what we're
should we
what we're talking
go for it?
about, what we're talking about, just to kind of segue on that, is the coming soon status that we currently have in the market, in my market with the MLS, that they don't have within your market yet. That gives you the
No,
ability
no, no.
that gives you the ability to place your property on the market, but not actually start your day count. So it's called coming soon, and you can do that for up to 2 weeks. What that does, it's a little bit of a placeholder. So let's say you're trying to get the property ready to go onto the market. I think it's a great idea. I know if you had it, or when you have it, I know you're going to use it as well, because it does give you that time period to where, maybe you've got a customer that is looking in a prestigious neighborhood, like, oh, I don't know, Avalon Park. Maybe someone's looking at buying there, and they're trying to see what's available. And if that property comes up and says, okay, well, this is coming soon, you're going to have agents that are going to contact you and say, hey, I see that property is going to be coming on the market in the next couple of weeks. We want to get on your radar. We want to see that. So I think it's a great tool, for agents and for sellers as well, and for buyers. It kind of gives the buyers a little heads up notice about saying, okay, hey, this is coming available. Not on the market quite yet, but coming soon. So that's what that's all
Absolutely.
about. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. No, very exciting stuff. But more to come because, yeah, there's a lot available that I'm going to have in my new toolbox. So moving on, though, let's talk about the market, the temperature. We talked about this in the first week or two. Let me share this slide. And this is and hey, this group needs to stop. We told them they have to endorse our podcast. We're not going to do any free endorsement or free ads, guys. So go
yeah.
talk to us and
Mhm.
come correctly, and we'll run your ads appropriately on our YouTube channel and across all of our other channels. But so in any case, over the past year or any given time, this chart here speaks to, for example, when the stock market had 1,000, point drop after the jobs report came out. We were in this fear category here where the market had a strong sense of fear about the economy. And as you see here today, we're here in this greed section, which
Hmm.
is
Hmm.
pretty aggressive, right? It's driving, this is all about driving the US market. And, this talks a little bit to the overall economy, right? And we know from statistics and stats that an election will bring positivity around the economy, the S&P and the overall global market. So and it doesn't hurt that September we're expecting Jerome Powell, the Fed czar, to potentially lower interest rates. So, guys, we're trying to get him on to our podcast and interview with us. So we'll let you know if we get that interview. Our team is talking to his team to see what we can do, right? But what's your perspectives, David, when you consider how the overall stock market affects our real estate market?
Greed is good. Greed works, for lack of a better word. To quote one of my favorite
Yeah.
movies, Wall Street. Yeah, I mean, I understand. Um, I understand. I don't think. I think we're probably a little in my market. We're probably a little more neutral. I think we're a little past the fear stage. I think you had a lot of sellers that at the beginning of the year, had some trepidation about what this year was going to bring in real estate. Am I going to be able to sell my home? I had an agent that contacted me today, and they wanted to show one of my listings, and his question was, "Well, just wanted to put you on notice that we're going to probably have to ask for a contingency regarding the sale of our property. Do you guys entertain that?" This particular seller doesn't entertain that, but that's where you're in a position to you need to sell your home before you can purchase something else. You want to go ahead and purchase that other home, but you've got to get yours sold. So uh, early on in the year, I think you wouldn't see that as much because again, you had some fear, about the market and what was gonna happen. Interest rates have kind of settled down. Inventory has moved up, but it's all location driven. But I think we're still from the graph you showed earlier. We're not seeing a drastic drop in prices, and I think that's what everybody that's waiting for or wanting a bubble to happen. And I just don't see it on the horizon. I don't say that for my own benefit or for our benefit. I just say that because I've done this for 25 years, in case I didn't mention on previous shows. And it's not going to happen, folks. I mean, you want it. I understand it. You want it and you want prices to go back. But they're not. They're not going to reset to that level. It's kind of like gas prices. It's like gas prices. So gas prices, if you follow that, gas prices shoot really, really high and they go up to almost 3.5 or 375, and then they drop back down to 320, which is still a high. And you're like, man, gas prices are really good right now, but they're not. They're not. They're actually just not as bad as they were the week before. And the housing market is similar to that in that the prices get pushed up, but we're not going to see that bottoming out. I don't feel something really big would have to occur for that to happen. So I think there's some growing confidence in the market. Um, Greed is certainly a factor with some sellers, and you could say buyers as well, because buyers come to the table and say, okay, well, I've got to pay this high interest rate, so I want you to pay all my closing costs. So from there's that tug of war between the two sides of one wants to sell, one wants to buy. Just kind of have that meeting of the minds and uh, you know come to a peaceful resolution if you can, with the transaction. So but yeah, that's where I see things right now. um I think with the election looming, we're gonna see some changes. If you go back, I don't care what your political affiliation is, if you go back and you look historically, there's been a change in the housing market when we have an election. And I don't think this year is going to be any different. Without
Right.
giving a political speech, do you feel the same way?
No, 100%. And I have stats that speak to that point. And of course, I wasn't prepared to share that, but yeah, every election cycle over the past 20 plus years, the economy always takes a bump in the positive direction of
Mhm.
growth.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's not going to change anything.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. There's
And
that.
and, and my point, I'll interject and add to what you were just sharing is, and I had a lunch with a client, and he asked, are prices going to go down? And I'm like, they're not. Same as you just said. And I said, it today is the best time to buy. It doesn't matter if it was a year ago or if it's 5 years from now. It's always today, just simply because the cost of these homes are only continuing to grow at an exponential rate. So you're always going to be in better shape to do it now. So don't wait, do it now. You can always refinance. You can always take advantage of different investment opportunities or explore other ways to save your money. But buy now, because the rent on these homes, whether it's traditional single family homes or even apartments, are astronomically high. They're just extremely high.
Yeah.
I was talking to the same guy. I mean, he said him and his family are paying $3,000 a month for a 3 bedroom rental. This is an apartment, not a
Hmm.
single family home.
Hmm.
Now, you know, just 5 years ago or so, that was a mortgage. That was a mortgage on a 3 bedroom single family home here in Florida, Orlando.
Well, so I shared, speaking of mortgage, I shared that video I shared with you this past week. There's a local mortgage rep that put out a video, and we'll have him on a show later on down the road. But one of the things that I think he was spot on with is he was talking about the
Mhm.
market, and he was talking about the concern that buyers have with where the interest rates are right now versus where they were in the past, and what you're paying. Uh, his point was that you're paying a higher interest rate now, of course, because the rates are higher. Um, but at the same time, you're in a current market to where uh, inventory is at a pretty decent level. Um, but if we get to a market again where you've got a substantially lower interest rate, what do you think is going to happen? Well, the market's going to catch fire again. I mean, it's exactly what's going to happen. We don't have an overabundance of homes right now, so the market's going to catch fire again. And where do you want to be? Do you want to be in a position to where you still have a slightly higher interest rate, and now you're in that multiple offer situation to where you're competing to buy a home, as opposed to whereas now you're not in the driver's seat. I think it's probably a balance. At least in my area, it's a balanced market right now. I know that you'll have some that say, "Well, it's a buyer's market." No, it's not. It's a little bit of a balanced market right now. But that could change quickly if rates dropped substantially. Um, it's a match on gasoline, in my opinion. I think the market would just catch on fire, and that's not where a lot of buyers want to be. Is back in that position to where you're having to compete, you're having to pay over list price, waive appraisals, waive inspections to get your deal done. I don't think that's where anyone wants to be again. So a balanced market is not a bad place to be, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah, ditto. All right,
So
let's move on. We beat that one up.
new construction. I want to talk a little bit about new construction. So I closed a new construction deal today with my buddy Phil. Phil sold his home and bought new construction, and he didn't buy. I mentioned earlier when we started the show, he didn't buy from what we call a tract, or like a big builder.
Mhm.
So in our area here, some of the builders are, and I'm not plugging any builder over another. But you've got Toll Brothers is a big brand here, kind of a luxury brand, if you will. We've got Lennar Homes, we've got DR Horton is in our area. They do quite a bit. And all of those builders, I think, do one thing. with regard to properties when they turn those over. And that is, they do a final inspection of the property. It's called a blue tape inspection. And a blue tape inspection, if you haven't purchased new construction homes before, is where you go in and you literally take blue tape and you mark up the entire property. And you're marking up everything, the slightest little defects in the home, whether it's a paint imperfection, whether it's overspray on the windows, whatever it is, you're going in and you're marking that up. And the expectation is that the builder is going to come back through before closing, and they're going to go ahead and take care of all of those things. It's a bumper to bumper warranty. That's why people buy a brand new home, for those reasons. So
Right.
you mark it up, they come back in, and then you do your walkthrough, and all of those things are taken care of. So so we purchased a property. I say we. Phil purchased a property that was built by a smaller independent builder, if you will, and they're local to our area. It's not a big company at all. What they do is they're one of these builders. You probably have them in your area where they purchase a piece of land because this is acreage, basically. It's about an acre and a half, almost 2 acres. They purchase land. If there's an existing home there, they remove it, maybe a manufactured home, and they build a new home there. They build a nice product, but it's not the same feel as you would have when you go into new construction, like with a model home or things like that. They basically build a specific plan on the lot. The
Mhm.
problem I have, and I want to get your opinion in a minute, is we did that same thing. We did that blue tape inspection, which they didn't want us to actually. They came back later on and said, "Well, we don't do it. We don't do that type of inspection. We're going to take care of kind of what we take care of." Which was a little off-putting because you want them to take care of it. You want them to stand behind their product. But
Mhm.
today was closing day, and we had the expectation that we sent a repair list over, and their job was to take care of that repair list for us prior to closing. And you can typically walk through a home 2 days prior to closing, which we did. And then on Wednesday, there were some things that weren't done. There was a lot of overspray paint on the windows. The home itself was not very clean, and that's common because you've got a lot of people that are coming in and out, in and out. You've got contractors that are going in and out of the property. You've had showings, during that course before it went under contract. So all of those things are expected. But the expectation that I have for my customer is that that property is going to be in turnkey, brand new showroom condition when we take over. And it just wasn't. It wasn't. I went over this morning. I went over Wednesday. We did the walkthrough. Something just told me go by the property today before we close. So I went by prior to meeting with my customers and then just took a look around, and it just wasn't up to the par that I think that new construction should be. And when you turn over a home to an owner, that's in this case spending over $400,000 for new construction. So I've got my realtor kit, I've got my broom, I've got my Fabuloso. No plug there toward Fabuloso, but it smells wonderful. I've got all these things in hand, and I go to work and I clean the floors and just do some blowing off. The simplest things, it took me maybe 30 minutes. 30 minutes is all it took me in that property to do that. And I contacted the listing agent afterwards, and I said, I want you to give you feedback, from me to your builder. I said they could spend 15, 20 minutes taking care of this, and it would go a long way towards the type of business that they can do in the future because of what that customer, what that homeowner is going to say, and how you made them feel about that property. But it just didn't happen. It was disappointing. I think I wouldn't want to work for a builder personally that didn't have that type of level of expectation. I think they just felt, hey, this is a brand new home. Whether it's a little dirty or not, it's a brand new home, and that was kind of their attitude. So what's your thought, or what's some of your experiences with new construction in your area that might or might not compare to that? It was a
You
lot,
know,
I know.
that was a lot. That was a lot. I would say that I haven't focused on any new construction this year. I've been focused more so this year on listings and working with sellers. So I can't say that I have a direct painful story to share, but I would say that the overall opinion of new build construction is please, please, please use a realtor. Do not just rely solely on the agent that's at the builder. Um, you're not guaranteed no issues with an agent,
Mhm.
But I certainly think with an agent, you have a better 100% chance of catching more issues than without,
Yeah.
for those buyers who are listening, because just the horror stories and the experiences that I've gone through where I'm just like, I wouldn't want my mother to close on certain deals or transactions, just because of the scenario. Like, for example, my my wife and her son purchased a house that's built by, I won't say the name of the builder, but they include solar panels on the roof, and it's part of the deal.
Hmm.
Well, in hindsight, it sounded sexy at first, but what they did is they didn't outfit the house with enough panels on the roof to actually um, energize and provide enough energy to support the house and the electric bill. They purposely only gave you, I think it was like 6 panels on the roof. And this is an entire subdivision of several hundred homes that was built. We did this transaction a couple of years ago, but we're still dealing with the effects of some of the decisions that this builder made.
Hmm.
And, the electric bill is $300 a month, and the panels are not on. And so we're like, well, why did we pursue this route? Why didn't this deal give us more clarity around the panels and who was supplying the energy and how to make sure the house had enough power? I tell you, it didn't sit well. Right? It didn't sit well.
Mhm.
And that's one example. The other example is sometimes the inspections that they do at the different phases. Like when you go, and I like to recommend all my buyers hire a independent inspector, even though the house has to go through those different phases with the county to approve. I've seen countless situations where the inspector that's privately brought in will find that maybe some of the roof shingles weren't properly installed, or the big one is the insulation. There's no insulation in the attic.
Hmm.
Or possibly, treated wood wasn't applied where it should have been applied because it was close to the ground, and we want to avoid termites, especially if it's on a concrete slab. It's like, what are you doing? Wood that's against the ground has to be treated,
Sure.
So sorry, you took me down a bad memory lane there, but that's my thought on it. That is just not a
Yeah.
sure shot. Please hire an agent whenever you're working on new construction.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. The uh, the other deal, I had another deal with new construction that they're actually going to build. They're going to go through that building process, and that's a whole nother topic. Going from selecting a home that you're going to build on a vacant lot, and then going through that process. But to your point, we we were able to, I think, negotiate a really good deal that initially the site agent had told us that they were going to offer certain incentives on that property. And then they kind of walked that back when we had a face-to-face meeting and said, "Oh yeah, we heard from corporate today. We're no longer giving those incentives." And I said, "Well, that's what got
Hmm.
us to the table. You said you were going to do that, and that's why we're sitting here today. So that's
Hmm.
just not really going to cut it. That I'm sorry, but we're not giving you the $10,000 in flex cash that we were going to, because we had a corporate change." And we held firm, and we got it. We were able to get that for the buyers. They were extremely happy. I was happy that the builder did what they said they were going to do, which was offer that. And I understand there's some changes within the sales cycle for a builder. Obviously, the more as they start close out certain phases of a development, prices will go up incrementally, and maybe some incentives go away. And I think all of that is strategic. All of that is strategic from the builder, designed to make homeowners purchase the property, or if they're on the fence, to get them off the fence to do that. They start taking those incentives away. So if you're a buyer and you're sitting at home and you visited one of those new construction communities, well, now you're thinking, well, man, all of those incentives that they were given, they're starting to take those away. I need to go ahead and pull the trigger. That's the reason they do that. So you're right. You do need an agent to represent you and your interests. There's kind of a little bit of a joke in our industry that you go in, and then the the site agent, if you will, kind of takes over. That's not the case. And if it is, shame on you as a realtor, because you should be doing your part throughout the entire process. There's the negotiation
Mhm.
process, which you are limited a little bit. I mean, sometimes the price is what it is, but maybe you can get some
Yep.
incentives in there. But then there's the selection of when you go in and you're selecting the upgrades, and maybe you counsel your buyer and say, maybe you don't need to get lighting from the builder. Maybe you go out and you get that aftermarket to where I think you can get the same quality level of lighting or things like that, that are really overpriced, I think, by the builder. There's some things in there. I always tell people structural changes are things that you can't do later on. Obviously, you can't move walls once you move in, but you can replace lighting, ceiling fans, things like that. Don't pay a 200% markup going through a builder to get those things when you don't have to. And then to your point, the inspection, you have that property inspected. I don't care whether it's new construction or not. And there's two different types of inspection you can do. You can do an inspection when it's complete, or you can do a phase inspection to where they take a look at the foundation. They take a look at, the from the slab, the foundation, the roof, everything all the way through. Those are a little more expensive, but if you're concerned at all and you want some peace of mind of knowing that, hey, they did everything by code and they did everything correctly, because that can cost you later on. What you were saying. That'll Some of those things can kind of cost you later on of what you didn't manage that the builder was doing when you go to resell that property. Because you go to resell that property, I see it all the time with newer homes. You have a home inspection and there's a list that comes back, and you're thinking to yourself, man, this home is only 2 years old. There should be no list on that property, but there is. And usually it's because the builder has done something not up to the level of what it should have been done. So I think we're about ready to go into to Kiss Mary Kill. Are you ready for that this week? What did we
Let's do it.
decide? What did we decide on? I think so. I think Kiss Mary Kill.
So
Um,
here's what we did. We said kiss, Mary, kill for Offerpad.
mm,
So iBuyers was the
right.
topic.
Hmm.
So Offerpad, Opendoor, and we also included Mark Spain.
Okay.
And we included Mark Spain because Mark Spain had made a very strong business model
Hmm.
around um, repurposing and utilizing these national iBuyer companies as their primary vessel and funnel for business. And they successfully became that lead in,
Yeah.
because David and I worked with Offerpad exclusively. We found that Mark Spain was always in the mix, and we're
Hmm.
like, hello guys, you don't have to go to them, you can come to us directly.
Sure.
But you go for it. What order do you
Um,
want to go?
so Kiss Mary Kill, Offerpad, Open Door, Mark Spain. Um, so Kiss, I'm gonna go with Open Door. I they're an iBuyer like Offerpad that we work for. I think they pay too much for homes is my personal opinion. I think they pay a little bit too much because what happened was Zillow was in that market in that space before about 2 years ago now, and we saw what happened with them. Zillow paid too much for homes, and they had homes that were underwater. They couldn't sell them, which in my opinion hurts the market ultimately.
Yeah.
They went out of that business and said, "Hey, we're done. We don't want to do that any longer. We're going to go ahead and leave it to you guys." And hey, Open Door said, "Hold my beer. We'll do the same thing. We'll go in and we'll overpay for houses." And that's what happened. They went in, and you and I had those phone conversations with customers. Now, for the buyer, if you're a buyer out there saying, "Hey, I love Open Door. They gave me this much money for a house. That's great."
Hmm.
The problem is later on they couldn't sell that house for the same amount. And you know what happens then? They take a bath on that, and it affects the value in your neighborhood. So ultimately, they have some kind of impact a little bit later on when they do sell those homes. And I've seen in some cases where they bought homes as high as 550,000, tried to put it on the market for 6 or 7, and sold it for less than what they paid for it. So that's not a great thing. So just a small kiss for them. So Mary, I mean, I've got to say Mary. I've got to say I've got to say Offerpad. I bleed orange a little bit still. I still like their product. I think they could have done it a lot better. And I don't mind if Brian Bear was, he and I were having a beer together, which I'd love to do one day. I want to tell him, you need to listen to realtors when you sell real estate, period. If you want to learn about telemarketing, then you go to a telemarketer. But if you want to sell real estate, then you need to talk to a realtor. And I don't think that they put enough confidence in the realtors that they hired for their program. Well, you and I worked on a program called the Flex program, where if a buyer or seller rather did not want to take the cash offer, then what would happen is we would flex. We would look and say, okay, the cash offer is not for you. We understand this is the better way to sell your property for the most possible, the highest possible price on the market right now. And that's what we did, and that's what our job was. We were both very good at it, and I think it did well for the company, and everybody was happy. But they got away from that. They stopped doing that and thought we need to really just focus on just cash deals. So for that, I think they've kind of taken a step back a little bit in what they've been able to do, and that's why they're not having the same success right now that they did a couple of years ago. So if they can get back to that core belief that they are offering the best solutions, I think it was a really good company, and I think they can be great again. But they're going to have to make some changes. A lot of those changes would probably involve calling you and I and saying, hey, we need you to come in here and sell these homes, because telemarketers do not sell homes. Realtors sell homes, period.
Yeah.
And the kill is going to be Mark Spain. So Mark Spain, I didn't know who that was until a lot of agents like yourself, in Central Florida told me about the company, and then I started seeing them in my own market. And the difference between the two. So let's talk about the difference between the three that we're talking about right now. So Opendoor and Offerpad will actually buy your home. Mark Spain will not. They cannot and they do not make offers on your property. What they do is they solicit Opendoor, Offerpad, and companies like that to generate an offer, and then they present that offer to you. Big difference. So they're not an iBuyer at all. So for that reason, you gotta kill them, because they're not, it's not even the same. It's not apples to apples. And I would have that conversation, I know you would as well, with home sellers, for years, about the fact that, well, we went to Mark Spain. Well, why? Mark Spain can't
Yeah.
buy your home. They can't generate a cash offer. They're going to call me, actually. They're going to call me back and say, hey, can you generate a cash offer on this listing? And that's what they do. So if you went with them and used their product, I hope you did okay. But it's just not the same. They're not an iBuyer. They're a company that does marketing and pushes you towards possible cash offers that are out there. So that's my take on it. What about you?
I have to say that my take isn't very far from the direction you went. So from a high level, iBuyers are there. There are still a couple of additional iBuyers out there. David and I tried to find the list. There's a few others out there who are authentically buying, but they're not aggressive. They're just at that intro stage of the market, and really trying to figure out where the market is going. The bigger problem with the iBuyer system and ecosystem, which David, you mentioned about Zillow, was, they overbought and then they got stuck with thousands and thousands of homes. And what they did is they quietly sold off 100 homes at a time in different blocks to other investment vehicles. So when you look at here in Florida, the landscape is we are owned by big S&P stock trading companies. So you look at companies like Invitation Homes. They are a business that has over 40,000 properties under their management, and they're just purely renting these properties out. So someone like them would buy blocks of homes from a Zillow, from an Offerpad, from an Opendoor, or whomever, and then they would put them in their rental inventory. So you think about the fact that a lot of people feel like there's not homes to buy and home ownership is taken away from them. It's a byproduct that Wall Street came in. Wall Street and technology just really took over the market and really hurt the average home buyer. So I have to say that I'm in line, right? Opendoor. I love that they were truly a tech company, and I almost started working for them before
Mm,
jumping on board with Offerpad. I love their technology back then.
mm,
And like you said, they were overpricing their homes. Um, so I would say that I would kiss them because they were the originators of
yeah,
this concept. And they were the darlings for a long time. They're still around, surprisingly. I think that you have these big, companies like Berkshire, or I forget the other one, the really big one who owns everything. They're fully vested in real estate. Um, they're funding and keeping Opendoor, Offerpad alive. But I would have to marry Offerpad just simply because I had a really great union. We were dating and we were in love, and it was a great union while it lasted. I didn't want to see it end, but they had to transform their business model,
mm,
and hopefully they stay around and they keep morphing around into something that's sustainable. um, I don't personally see the iBuyer market and solution as a real viable future for our economy. I do think that it's a virus and it hurts the average American family. Um, and that's my thesis, and I'm going to stick to it. I just think there's enough stats and data to support that. This whole idea of Wall Street jumping in and buying like this is just destroying it. Mark Spain, yeah, I would RIP to that organization. I think from an individual basis, he's a smart guy. He started as a real estate team, I believe, out of the Georgia, Atlanta area, and just became national with his program of piggybacking off of the
mhm,
iBuyer network. Brilliant. But yeah, what he would do, I ran into in many occasions. He would present my client with a listing along with our direct iBuyer offer and charge 7-8%. You know, and it's like, okay, so they're in as part of the listing agreement, the Offerpad, or in our case, Offerpad would charge 5%, and they would take an additional 1 to 2% on top of the deal.
mm.
So not the best strategy. It is a leech sort of game plan. It worked for many. I wish them the best as well. So I mean, but that's my overall take on that. That's a really cool one. That's not a traditional kiss, marry, kill. I think that got really deep and
Yeah,
philosophical. Really
yeah,
like that.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Awesome.
Right
Um,
before a holiday, so that made it even more perfect.
exactly. Well, enjoy your Labor Day weekend. Um, rest up. The new month begins on Sunday. That means back to zero in real
Oof.
estate. So,
Yes.
starting again. Go out there, get those listings, get homes sold, service your customers. That's all I've got for this week. You have anything else?
That's it. I'm looking forward to a new month, new beginnings, new opportunities. So it was a pleasure.
All right. So see you, everybody.
Have a great one.